Welcome, Martians, Brides, and Arachnos, to the 83rd production of an Unearthly podcast, streaming live on the 3rd of December 2014, and featuring The Runaway Bride, written by Russell T. Davies. I am Bill Sylvia, the Man in Black, and with me are Mad Matt Winchell.
Hello.
And Randy Ronson McCulloch.
Always a pleasure.
We're a little light-staffed today, but once again, we will be sharing Tim and Aaron's input on the episode.
They cannot make it tonight because Aaron has a very early shift schedule tomorrow, and Tim is working in his career in the theater.
Before we go into the meet, everybody have a good Thanksgiving, Black Friday, Cyber Monday. I emptied out my bank account and maxed out my credit cards on Monday. I hope I'm not.
I had absolutely no budget for either, but I had a good Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving actually turned out better than I thought, even though there were some minor mistakes made. I put in the turkey a little bit late, but the turkey wasn't dry for a change, so I guess that's good.
I'm actually with Matt on that.
I cooked everything except the turkey this year, so I guess my next milestone is to... Once I've made a Thanksgiving turkey, I'll have done an entire Thanksgiving dinner, just not all at once. It was a team effort this year.
You said you had issues with the stuffing?
No, it wasn't. Well, no, it was just that was one of the things I didn't make. The stuffing was made when my mother was making the turkey the night before, so that she could stuff the turkey with stuffing.
Actually, you're not supposed to do that anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah, what? It's a health hazard now.
How is it a health hazard?
It's possible to get the turkey bacteria into the stuffing. I know I don't actually stuff my turkey.
We've stuffed it for years. It's not going to
Yeah,
stop
I know.
anytime
It's one of those things. It's one of those things that the health department has now said, yeah, this could happen.
Yeah, but cooking the turkey is supposed to also help get rid of that, isn't it?
Not as much as they thought it did.
Oh, well.
Anyway, on to more on-topic things, since, unless anybody had any major Black Friday encounters they'd like to bring up, I don't think anyone else really went out shopping.
I definitely didn't go out actually shopping, although I did finally wrap up most of my Christmas shopping.
No, Aaron and I went out and exchanged our traditional Christmas gifts of giving each other games.
Which Aaron did to me and I gave back to her.
Yours is over Steam. We trade PS3 games. Ours were kind of related to each other this time because that we kind of traded Assassin's Creed games. So we now have pretty much all the Assassin's Creed games up to the stuff that was released this year. So
from what I hear, the stuff that came out this year you don't want right now anyway.
I've heard good things about the plot of Rogue. It's Unity I've largely heard bad stuff about.
Ooh, actually I heard Rogue was so bad that they actually canned the PC port of it.
I was talking to a guy at GameStop and heard the exact opposite.
Well, that's GameStop. They're trying to sell you games. But
No, this was a guy that we were shooting the breeze while I was buying games.
But games are a very subjective thing, to each their own opinion, but yeah, Unity in particular was pretty bad. People's faces inside out.
Yeah, but I don't have a PS4 or a Xbox One, so I'm not going to be playing that anytime soon.
So, yeah. Other than that, I got Thief now. I got all the Thief games now.
I got Borderlands, so I can actually participate with you all when you guys decide to do a Borderlands thing, but...
Gonna love you up, hardcore.
Yeah. Trust me, I can pretty much rock through a good chunk of either game with a, suddenly forget the name of stuff, so...
You suddenly forget the name of all the characters at all.
Yeah. The,
Soldier, the sniper.
Elementalist.
Banshee? No, not Banshee. Siren.
Siren, that's the one, yes. Anyway.
Female monster, just the wrong guy.
That's neither here nor there, so...
Yeah.
So bit of a podcast update before we go into our Doctor Who news. For our fans that are busy at home, an Unearthly podcast is now mobile. Audio versions of the podcast can now be found at Mixcloud, which is available both for iOS and Android devices. It's also online, of course, mixcloud.com. Our whole library is available on there, so you can just look up an Unearthly podcast, follow, and click play on your morning commute, or while you're playing the game you bought for Black Friday for your nephew.
Quote unquote.
Or in the case of these guys who just got a bunch of new games, apparently, that they, well, I guess they hear enough of their own voices, but...
Yeah.
I do my own streaming, I hear my voice plenty. I'm still playing Heretic right now. It's going to take a long time.
You know, I tend to listen to Big Finish stuff while I game, but... Anyway, we have to start out our Doctor Who news on a bit of a down note, I'm afraid. It is my sad duty to inform you that actor Ian Fairbairn has died. Ian Fairbairn is a British actor that has appeared in a number of programs, including Emergency Ward 10, Z-Cars, The Professionals, and in Doctor Who, playing Questra in the Macra Terror, Mark Gregory in The Invasion. He was also in the Third Doctor story Inferno as Bromley. And then in 1976, he played Dr. Chester in the third episode of The Seeds of Doom.
So
we haven't heard what...
No major recurring roles, but he's been in 4 roles over a span of about 10 years there in Doctor Who, plus other things there.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. No knowledge, no listing of what he died of.
And by the way, whoever keeps bumping into their microphone, please stop. It's getting very loud.
Maybe it's because it's near my mouse. I don't know if it's mine or not. I'll move it.
Yeah, it sounds like
it's yours.
Ah.
Stop bumping it, Bill.
No, it's because it's near the cord from my mouse, so that's probably what's bumping it.
Stop it, flail hands. Anyway.
Okay, and our in our coverage of The Last Christmas, the BBC has announced that the special will be airing at 6:15 on Christmas Day on BBC One in an hour-long broadcast. For those of us that are closer to home, BBC America has also been announced as watching it, announced as airing it on the same day. Initially in a trailer that Peter Capaldi filmed for Thanksgiving Day. It is now can be seen on BBC America that the special will be airing at 9 Eastern, 8 Central.
And that'll probably be about an hour and a half with commercials.
Yeah.
It'll still run very close to podcasting time.
Knowing BBC America, there's probably going to be like a 10-minute introduction thing, maybe a few other mini segments to pad it out to 2 hours.
Maybe. We'll see. We won't actually know until the
broadcasting
scheduling
time.
block comes out. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's the BBC America has links claiming you can see the schedule for it, but the schedule doesn't actually go up for until past the end of next week. So give it a couple more weeks, and we should be able to see the full details.
Keep your browsers peeled.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Continuing our news on the ratings for Season 8, I had mentioned last week that I thought we'd seen the last of it, but we haven't because they have listed the full Live Plus 7 ratings for the entire Series 8 in one nice-looking table, I might add.
Yep. Yeah, it's a very nice looking there. I mean, it doesn't really give us much of anything we didn't know. It follows the same trends we've known, although it does give us some interesting facts of Doctor Who compared to the rest of the BBC's content.
Did it? Give it compared to the rest of the content? Yeah, it was giving it it basically gave us the proper breakdowns. One thing we noticed is that repeat viewers have slowly dwindled over the course of the episodes we've seen, starting at 500,000, a little less than 500,000 at Deep Breath, and just a touch under a quarter by
By
the
by
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 Bethany.
repeat, I'm pretty sure they're referring to people who watch the second or third airing of the same episode during the week.
Yes.
Yeah. Whereas iPlayer seems to be a bigger thing among Doctor Who fans, and that did steadily grow throughout the season.
Mostly.
If you take out Deep Breath, it
If you take
steadily
out
grew.
Deep Breath, because yeah, Deep Breath was almost as big as the finale, and then it went down to 500,000, and then slowly grew with notable stops over the course of the following season. Time shifted viewers pretty much stayed even, at least in proportion to the overall ratings.
I would also like to note that something I noticed in this particular list is that the episodes I didn't care for all landed like under 7.8 million.
Yeah. So those episodes weren't particularly well viewed. It was the ones that we actually liked that,
Actually got the
or
better viewings, yeah.
at least we're neutral on.
It still strikes me that Listen was so popular on the internet. I mean, we know it was not well liked in our podcast, but it was for whatever reason very popular among a vocal minority apparently, because that was another one of those episodes that it did not break. It did not break the average amount of people watching it.
Yeah, matter of fact, it barely managed to cling onto the lower rim of it.
So, yeah, kind of interesting there. Same holds for Kill the Moon, which,
And
if
the
you recall,
Caretaker
we
was also pretty
despised,
rubbish.
and
Caretaker was
Caretaker, which we were
rubbish.
neutral on.
Caretaker, yeah, I guess we were kind of neutral on, but it wasn't the greatest thing ever, and that was also pretty dang low. And the Force of the Night was okay, and it was also fairly low, just under 7.8 million.
Yeah. So you can see some of the demographics that break down on the Live.7. Yeah. I don't see what Bill was talking about.
If you look at the paragraphs underneath it, it mentions. Let me find what exactly I'm looking for here.
I see.
Well, it mentions that 24% of Doctor Who viewers time shifted the recording, compared to an average of 6% on other programs. 4% watched the repeat, compared with an average of 6%, and around 9% watched on iPlayer, with the average for the BBC being 2%.
And yeah, that's kind of significant. That
means there's about a 450% increase of Doctor Who fans watching it on iPlayer compared to the average BBC show.
Yeah, and even larger percentage watching it time shifted.
I know that was 400% instead of 450, so still significant though.
Yes, it is.
That means Doctor Who fans are more likely to watch it on their DVR or on their computer rather than it being something that they watch because it's on.
Yes.
Although still a strong amount of them will watch it when it's on.
I will remind the podcast that the Doctor Who movie in '96 was the most videotaped event of its year, so this is nothing new to Whovians.
Yes.
But Whovians are smarter than other people.
Yeah, okay, well, on
we're
that
more tech savvy. Sachet.
Moving on, the BBC has released its annual Doctor Who adventure calendar for fans looking for something to do each day in the month of December. I had not actually been aware of this tradition, but I got an email from Twitter this morning about the post about it, and
yeah, it's a little less flashy than previous years, where it was like a actual puzzle calendar kind of thing, where you'd click on a flash link and it would bring it up when it's unlocked. I had seen that in previous years. I've never paid that close attention to it, but I knew it was there. And this time they just seem to have a series of straight links.
Wallpapers, a quiz, a video with Nick Frost.
And as it should get more and more exciting as the month goes on.
Oh, I'm kind of wondering if they stubbed their toes already because their first thing was a video of Nick Frost to begin with.
Yep.
And then they follow wallpapers.
Well, that's the next day. It looks like today there was a part 1 of a mega quiz. I'm curious what kind of quiz this is, if it's a trivia quiz or what.
Traditionally, though, as it gets closer to the Christmas special, they'll start putting in leaks. In previous years, I think at least one of the mini-sodes had been one of the day unlocks.
Oh,
So
okay.
we'll
The quiz is a trivia quiz. So
Figures.
there are going to be 3 parts, and the first one is out. I don't know if the next 2 are going to be over the next 2 days or what, but
I kind of doubt
if
it.
you enjoy those, go ahead and take a look
Other
at
things
it.
that's been traditionally in there had been jigsaw puzzles, and other little flash games that had come out during Christmas time.
Alrighty. Well,
Anything else to say about this?
not particularly.
Not really.
Okay.
Just that this thing, it's
Just
there.
a little thing to do, yeah.
So, the BBC has officially kicked off its holiday viewing schedule this year, and the first thing they aired, right after Strictly Come Dancing on November 29th, was the original William Hartnell Happy Christmas from the 7th episode of the Daleks' Master Plan. You might know this is one of the few surviving pieces of the Daleks' Master Plan in which Hartnell breaks the fourth wall to wish a happy Christmas to all of you from home. As they went through their list of what they were planning on showing this year, they punctuated each piece by a little TARDIS sound effect to give the impression of going back in time, and featuring clips from the New Who Christmas specials, including The Christmas Invasion, Voyage of the Damned, and I assume The Runaway Bride, which we will be talking about later. And of course, this will all be airing variously on BBC One, leading up to the Last Christmas special on the 25th.
Last Christmas.
Last Christmas special.
Yes. It's not easy to say.
That's why they should have called it the Last Xmas.
Yes, but that's not really. It's not really popular to say it like that.
Not to mention, it makes me think of X-Men.
It was popular enough for the
Xmas.
It was popular enough for the 2006 remake of Black Christmas.
Yeah, that's a bad remake.
Moving on.
It's fun. It's not great, but it's fun.
Give me the original one with Kidder. Anyway.
This would be our next piece, wouldn't it? I thought we'd talk.
Timeless Arch.
I thought we'd sit on that one a little longer. Our next bit, we've got the Stuart Manning Series 8 posters that the Radio Times has been releasing are being published as a collection of high-quality prints by Big Chief Studios. The art will be available to order very soon and will be sold separately as limited edition art prints, as well as a portfolio edition, which can be ordered on the Big Chief website. Is our price listed on there while we're discussing it?
Checking.
I'm not seeing one yet. Stay tuned for more details soon, they say. And speaking of Stuart Manning, 2 more of his prints are being auctioned for sale for breast cancer research. And these are the prints for the 2 episodes we've covered actually the last 2 weeks, Enemy of the World and The Web of Fear.
Ironically enough.
Yeah, the prints were made for the same reason we reviewed them, was because they were found last year. They're being the proceeds of the auction will be donated to breast cancer research in memory of Doctor Who's first producer, Verity Lambert. Did she have breast cancer that I'm not aware of?
I don't know.
I will look. If they're giving one in her honor, it's quite possible.
It's quite
right.
It's quite possible, especially since so many Whovians
add her to the list of Doctor Who mains that have died of cancer.
Yeah. So many of the main cast and crew have died of cancer in the last 10 to 20 years.
And if you want more information, you can go to the Doctor Who Appreciation Society website on dwasonline.co.uk. The auction is through eBay, which seems to be the default with BBC auctions lately. And I'm showing 5 days left on the auction with the Web of Fear print going for £300 and the Enemy of the World print going for £102. Come on, guys. Enemy of the World is an amazing episode. You should be bidding for it. And breast cancer, too.
It does say that Very Lambert died of cancer. It does not specify breast cancer, but...
But the fact that she died of cancer leads to the possibility, nonetheless.
Yep.
That should be a season plot. The Doctor versus cancer, because that seems to be its main enemy.
Does the cancer... do they hook up a device to the cancer and it talks back like the virus in Red Dwarf?
Matt, you're a classic Who fan.
Yes.
Contact has been made. Okay. So we're going to move on to our final news article here, and this is actually less of news and more of rumor. The Mirror broke news earlier this week that Jenna Coleman will not be quitting her role as the Doctor's companion and will instead be continuing on through Series 9. Now, if you're Jenna Coleman fans out there, before you start hopping out of your chair and partying, I'll remind you that this is the Daily Mirror. Getting information from the Daily Mirror is like getting your news from the National Enquirer.
What's new about Batboy?
That's Weekly World News, Matt.
Yeah.
It's still more or less the same thing.
The Mirror is the same people that reported last year that 100 episodes of Doctor Who had been found in Africa. And from that we got...
9.
I was trying to remember the exact number. So, possible that something may be up. She may be guest appearing. And
at this point, it's pretty much confirmed that the BBC is dicking us around with making us trying to figure out whether or not she's going to be there.
Yes. We would not even bother...
The Mirror were the ones that announced that she was leaving in the first place, by the way.
Yes.
Yes.
So, normally we here would not even bother dating this with a news article. But the Radio Times has reposted this, as has Castorburst.com, but the Radio Times took it a step further and actually confronted their people in the BBC about it. First of all, the Radio Times article is not as definitive as the Mirror article saying that Coleman might be coming back for Series 9. The BBC's official stance by their spokesperson is they won't be commenting. Viewers will have to watch the Christmas episode to find out. One of the things that makes me think this is more rumor than fact is when this broke and what they would have had to do to change this. According to the actual articles in the Mirror, the original draft of the script, Jenna Coleman became an old woman who then died with the Doctor at her side. And then it was rewritten to see her departing with the Doctor. Does this really sound like what would have been written for them?
If so, then it would be an inverse of last year's Christmas special.
Pretty much.
And furthermore, the fact that this broke street on the 28th. The 27th or the 28th was when this actually broke, over the weekend. By this point, the Christmas special has been written, it's been filmed, it's in post.
Yeah, they're not going to just change plot at the last minute and refilm it all.
Yeah. So I'm taking this with a highly large grain of salt.
The Mirror is just throwing everything out there just to try and get somebody's attention.
Yeah, this is basically a scream for attention by the Daily Mirror. I still don't know if Coleman's coming back. It is possible.
I will say that while I am indifferent to her for the most part, she's not the most fantastic companion, but she's by far not the worst we've had either. I will state that I have friends whose significant others that are big Who fans hate her guts, apparently. So,
And I know people that are huge fans of them.
so
Of her. My issue with her is not so much the character as the writing for her.
yes,
Um, I have said this before, and I will say it again. Doctor Who needs to have a writer's Bible so that people writing these characters are on the same page.
Yes.
and that they stop with the bland same caricatures.
Well, there's one person writing the outlines of those things, so.
Yeah,
And he
because the
deserves a couple dozen kicks in the
characterization.
nuts.
Generally, when a new writer is given a chance to really write something, they make it worthwhile. It's the ones that they're told to write or that are being shared that are normally the weaker ones, at least in certain episodes.
Yeah, the big issue with Clara is that when Stephen Moffat writes her, she's one way. When Gaddis writes her, she's another. And when the guest writes her, or when the guest writers write her, she's completely a third way entirely.
There's also
nobody,
yeah,
there's nobody editing and regulating these personality quirks.
part of that has to do with the fact that she's another character that sometimes remembers all of space and time and sometimes doesn't.
Which is an issue, and Moffat really needs to stop doing that.
And yeah, that's literally a problem with Moffat himself, in fact. As I believe we have pointed out before.
Yeah. And that covers our news for the evening.
Yep.
So on to the main feature.
Before we go into the episode, there are a few details I'd like to discuss.
Yes.
First off is that Runaway Bride is the latest of several Doctor Who stories to... Well, yeah. The latest of several Doctor Who stories to introduce a character not initially intended to be a companion. Not initially intended to be a companion. I won't go into details about Alistair Gordon Lethbridge Stewart, considering that we've discussed him in 2 of the last 3 weeks, and will likely be discussing him again in January. The second such character was Nyssa of Traken, initially intended to be a one-off character in The Keeper of Traken, who is actually written into the main cast in the following serial, Legopolis. For more on that, see our reviews of Legopolis and Castrovalva from last year.
Yeah, I believe it
earlier
actually
this
had
year.
a bit of an argument on whether she was intended to from the start, but
I'm not certain how our discussion about that had went, but when I looked it up, it was indicated that she was intended as a one-timer.
and technically you missed somebody on that list. Matthew Waterhouse.
Oh, he was only intended to be in the East Space trilogy, or what?
He was only intended to be in Full Circle. They rewrote the last episode of Full Circle to include Adric.
Got you. I had no
TARDIS.
idea. Got you.
Yeah, this is actually something that's happened, I think, a number of times. Where they just had written a character, but by the time they got to the end of the serial, they kept him. Jamie was another one. Fraser Hines.
You're mentioning ones that they ended up by the end of the serial changing their mind, whereas at least the ones that I've pointed out, they finished their story, were considered to have gone on their own way, and then brought back afterward.
Yeah, but you've got to remember, Doctor Who back in those days, those serials were written and aired virtually the same week, so the actor going into the role at the start of it had no idea he'd be continuing on at the end of it.
True.
And neither did the writers.
Yeah.
In fact, if you remember correctly, I think it was the moon base had to be rewritten big time to, or at least partially to include Jamie, which we will probably get into when we review the moon base.
Right. Now, in the case of Catherine Tate, who we'll be looking at this episode, she was originally selected as a celebrity guest for the episode Runaway Bride. It wasn't until Freema Agyeman left the role of Martha Jones that Tate was once again cast as Donna Noble, with the character rewritten for her enhanced role in the story. This is distinctly different from other actors that would later come back as companions, including Nicholas Courtney of The Daleks' Master Plan, Lalla Ward of The Armageddon Factor, Colin Baker of Arc of Infinity, Freema Agyeman of Army of Ghosts, and Karen Gillan and Peter Capaldi of Fires of Pompeii. This is also markedly distinct from the Impossible Girl storyline initiated by Asylum of the Daleks, in which Jenna Coleman played a character unaware that she was a facet of a future companion, Clara Oswald, flung into the Doctor's time stream.
True. At that point, they actually knew that Jenna Coleman was going to be a companion. They were writing it as foreshadowing.
As far as we can tell, yes.
Oh no,
we knew she'd been cast. Something with her for sure.
No, we knew she'd been cast at the time. It had been announced.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it was kind of a fake. It was announcing Jenna Coleman as the new companion. Oh look, there's a Jenna Coleman character here. Oh, but we're going to kill her off.
Yeah, it was leading into the mystery of the girl who kept dying, and they did it again in the Snowmen, just to let us know it wasn't a one-off.
And if I recall, around September or so of that season, there was this big thing. Oh, is she coming as her companion self, or is she playing a completely separate character? Oh, guess we won't tell you, type of deal.
Well, we were wondering at one point if she was going to be Doctor Who's Kenny.
Yes, because
if she was going to be a different character dying in every episode.
Yes.
Which would make her the most unusual companion ever. If they had gone with that, I would have actually probably liked it more.
I honestly think she should have died in 1 or 2 more episodes. I mean, she died only in 3, kind of 4. We still don't know how she survived Time of the Doctor, Name of the Doctor, but that episode was also rewritten by Time.
Yeah.
But we're not going to go into that because we could probably go on for about that.
Yeah,
I'd rather not remember that.
Please see our rant either at the end of Name of the Doctor and the beginning of Day of the Doctor. Although I do think at the Day of the Doctor we were still in euphoria at that point.
Most of us.
Okay. So I believe the next thing we wanted to do is a little biography on Catherine Tate.
Yep, a look at our celebrity guest.
Yes, Catherine Tate started her career in the early 1990s working in what the UK calls serial dramas, but what we in North America refer to as soap operas. She was a regular in many of ITV's serial dramas, or regular soaps, playing either bit characters or slight reoccurring roles that weren't continuous, just people that would show up every now and again. A few years into this, she decided that she wanted another line of work and embarked into a career in stand-up comedy. It was during this stint of time between around 1995-96 and about 2003, while she was running as a stand-up comedian, that she began to develop characters that would become her signatures, particularly that of abrasive teenager Lauren Cooper and stick-in-the-mud character Nan. Her stand-up routines got her invited into many sketch comedy shows in the UK, featuring in a few comedy series at that time. However, her big break came in 2004 when she was approached by the BBC to do her own series, which became The Catherine Tate Show. 3 series of these ran between 2004 and 2006, and she got nominated for the BAFTA, which I will remind you is the British Film and Theatre Awards. And it propelled Catherine Tate, her character Lauren Cooper, and the catchphrase, "Am I bothered?" to household names and phrases in the UK. And it brought Catherine to the attention of Doctor Who writer-producer Russell T Davies, who was looking for a special guest on Doctor Who's second Christmas special. Catherine would be hired to play the loud and arrogant Donna Noble in the 2006 special, then go on to play a more user-friendly version of the character in the 2008 series opposite David Tennant. Following her stint in Doctor Who, Catherine has gone on to appear in many British comedy shows, continuing that career, including the final seasons of The Office. She has since retired Lauren Cooper in 2007, having the character killed in a kayaking accident, refusing to listen to directions as she goes off a waterfall. Tate is currently appearing as Miss Poe Stern in the UK series Big School, and has just made a TV movie starring her character Nan, and is appearing in the feature films Nativity 3, Dude, Where's My Donkey, and Super Bob.
See, for making the opening of this episode, that main character that she first got all the way through and actually killed, I could see her dying of a kayaking accident.
Oh God, Lauren Cooper.
That clip is on YouTube. Yes.
Mm.
Lauren Cooper kayaking.
Yes, Lauren Cooper was. I have to say that I'm actually a little fond of the Lauren Cooper character. There was a Children in Need special done around this, just I think before she was killed off. That was her and David Tennant, where David Tennant appears as a Scottish teacher.
I feel like that was depending on which year that aired. That was probably the reason this episode came about. What do you know which year that?
I think it was about the same time. I think it might have been part of her agreement. I think it was the Children in Need that year.
I believe it was either Children in Need or one of these similar events. Comic Relief, that's what it was.
Comic Relief.
It was uploaded by BBC in 2007. So actually, this was the 2006 Christmas special. So this was probably after. Okay, so this would have been something planned after Runaway Bride, but probably
the year before she would actually take on Doctor Who for a full season.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was probably. It was uploaded in 2007, probably meant to air in 2006. So it was probably used...
What month is Comic Relief normally in? Because I would think that most of these specials would be aired around the same time as the fundraiser, considering they're trying to get people to donate.
No, the fundraiser is shown on television.
I know, but I figured it would probably be around the same month because they do want people to pay.
Yes, but what I mean is...
Like, there's a link saying, please donate on the YouTube article. YouTube post.
Yeah, I know, but usually they don't hit YouTube till a few months after the special's been aired. Comic Relief is an ongoing thing. You can donate to it at any time.
Oh, okay.
It's not like pledge breaking for WHA or for public television.
Yeah, it's not public television break. It's like pledging money for breast cancer.
Like Children in Need, which is a November event.
Correct. It's kind of like the Jerry Lewis Telethon, in which they're raising money for multiple sclerosis, but you can always donate. It's just that they're bringing that awareness to the people at that particular time.
Yes.
Okay, what I'm showing is that the Comic Relief is normally... the Comic Relief event, Red Nose Day, is normally on the second or third Friday in March. So I'm kind of wondering, since this was uploaded in February, if it might have been the following year's upload.
It might have been.
So it might have been for the 2006 event uploaded to YouTube in 2007. In which case, she probably did meet David Tennant or Russell T Davies or both on the set of Comic Relief and discuss doing a Doctor Who episode, which later became a Christmas special when... Actually, yeah, that was right around the time that RTD found out he was doing a 2006 Christmas special, so... Yeah.
It might have been what brought it together. Because you'll notice, if you've seen that particular special, Lauren Cooper gets turned into a Rose Tyler action figure.
Yeah. And it's worth noting that RTD found out at the BAFTAs that year that he was going to be doing a 2006 Christmas special, or initially this was just going to be an episode.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, the Christmas special for 2005 was really David Tennant's entry.
Yeah.
So he didn't really, other than making it happen at Christmas, he didn't have to do too much to it. And he added the the Santas.
Yeah, the Santas and a little bit
the
of
spinning
snow.
Christmas tree of doom.
Oh, and
But
oh,
other
and
than
this. Wait, are we talking about the same episode?
we're talking about the
Talk
Christmas
about Christmas
invasion.
Invasion.
Christmas Invasion. Okay.
Yeah, and the spinning Christmas tree of doom. So he didn't really. But other than that, the plot of the Christmas invasion could pretty much stand alone as a
That's
Doctor Who episode happening
that's
at any
pretty much
time.
what he did to this episode to make it into a Christmas special. He added Santas, he added a Christmas tree, and he made the spaceship look like the star on top of a tree.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it's not. Otherwise, it could be a regular episode.
Yeah, and that's by the way is a fundamental difference between a Russell T Davies Christmas special and a Stephen Moffat Christmas special.
Whereas the Stephen Moffat ones, they try a bit too hard, I think, at times.
Except
Yes.
for the two most recent Moffat Christmas specials were part of the season.
Yeah. I will admit that for Time of the Doctor.
And the Snowman.
The Snowman is
No,
yeah,
I
I
think
guess
the
you could say
Snowman
that.
is him still reaching for a Christmas special. That's my honest
Well,
opinion.
it's
but...
not reaching as badly as the episode that took place on the planet Christmas. Oh no, wait, this in the town Christmas. Sorry.
I'd still think they're both reaching. I think they're both stretched themselves thin trying to come up with Christmas themes, and it's just kind of meh. You could have done without it and
Yeah.
done better.
Yeah, whereas Russell T Davies was let's write an episode and put a Christmas spin on it.
Here's an
was really-
here's an episode idea. Cybermen invade dressed as Santa Clauses, so no one stops them until it's too late.
Now that would be freaky, wouldn't it?
That's essentially what the robots are in Christmas
Well,
Invasion.
they're robots.
and
They
Runaway.
aren't actually going out and attacking everybody,
they're-
trying to
they're-
convert them, though.
I'm like they're coming like to take energy and such, but yeah, they're not actually trying to invade the Earth.
No, this is a full-on Santa invasion. That would be freaky as hell.
Yeah, I've always been waiting for Moffat to do something along the lines of how the Slovenes stole Christmas or something like that.
That would be I could see that as a Sarah Jane episode.
I still say they should have continued the Sarah Jane adventures with Joe Grant. It would have been a change, but you would have continued to go with it.
Yeah, because we at least got to meet her again.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could just have a string of I'm not going to be extra dark and be like, oh, in case the lead keeps dying, bring on a whole bunch, but you could just bring in a string of previous companions and have them either share the spotlight or each take a season one after the other.
I'm pretty sure there's a lot of old alumni that wouldn't mind coming back.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Most of them would at the drop of a hat.
Pretty much any companion from the 80s would. Probably most of the ones from the 70s as well.
Oh god, imagine Ace coming back.
She was scheduled to at one point and couldn't, and Sarah Jane died before she could come back on there. But I would love to see them do something with Louise Jameson, who played Leela during the Tom Baker era.
The only problem is, then you'd have to explain how she got off of Gallifrey.
But they could do that. They could
leaving
do
her in the
that.
hands of Big Finish is fair as far as that goes, but
I still think it would be awesome.
yeah, maybe when they find Gallifrey, she can show up.
I would love to see an episode with a team up of Ace and Leela. Think about that. Just don't worry about how they do it, how they write it. Just think about that particular team up.
Picturing what Leela would do if she was introduced to Nitro 9.
I'm suddenly imagining The Fifth Element. Big bada boom. Oh. Should I start the summary?
Yep, it's about summary time.
Yes,
Okay. So I will try to sum up the Runaway Bride in a nutshell here. We start out on a wedding scene with Donna Noble walking down the aisle to her soon-to-be husband, Lance, when she suddenly starts having this bizarre yellow-orange glow about her, then dissolves into particles in front of the eyes of all the wedding guests and everybody, and appears on the TARDIS, showing the other angle of what we had seen at the end of the second season with her suddenly appearing there. It then proceeds to redo that scene with the Doctor absolutely flummoxed and her getting indignant. And we cut to the opening credits. When we came back, Donna continues to be angry, accusatory, and loud, while the Doctor tries to figure out exactly what happens. Eventually, he shows her the outside of the TARDIS, aka space, and that quiets her down momentarily. While the Doctor attempts to figure out exactly how she got there. He doesn't figure it out, and instead she demands to be taken back to her wedding. The Doctor attempts to land at the chapel that she's requested, but the TARDIS lands slightly off. This confuses the Doctor, although why it does, I'm not certain, as he's failed to land several times before. But in this case, the TARDIS seems to be having digestion problems. Donna is momentarily agaped by the appearance of the TARDIS, but quickly they realize that they need to get to the wedding, so they hail a taxi, which is when it's realized that neither one of them has any money. They are kicked out of the taxi. Donna tries to get a new cab, while the Doctor tries to get cash. She quickly borrows 20 pounds and jumps in a taxi, leaving the Doctor there. However, it is the Doctor sees the Santa Clauses from the previous season walking down and realizes the driver of Donna's taxi is nonetheless one of these, and quickly jets back into the TARDIS, rigging it for non-dematerialization flight. She chases after the taxi, and after a bit of a taxi versus TARDIS high-speed chase, it convinces Donna to jump into the TARDIS to safety. They land on a building, and while the Doctor cools down, while Tana cools down, while the TARDIS cools down, Donna and the Doctor...
One of them, eventually...
Something needs to cool down.
I kept reading names. Eventually, I'd get to the right area. My tongue just would not spit out the word TARDIS for some reason. Anyway, while the TARDIS cooled down, Donna and the Doctor... Donna comes to terms with missing her wedding while the Doctor tries to comfort her, and he gives her a ring to biodamp her so she won't be abducted again, so they can't home in on her. After a little bit of commiserating, they head back, discovering that the wedding had not only not gone on, but they had gone on to the reception without her. She's originally upset by this, but soon joins in the party with everybody else. And the Doctor, meanwhile, takes a look at the name of Donna's workplace on somebody's phone lookup and realizes that the place is owned by Torchwood. This sets him a little suspicious. He shortly thereafter sees footage of of her disappearing and realizes that the yellow, orangey, glowing particles are Huon particles, which are billions of years old. So old, in fact, that the biodampener won't dampen that particular signal, and she outside sees the Santas once again converging on the location. In fact, they seem to have been planned this ahead of time, as they have the Christmas trees set up with their normal remote controls, only this time, instead of spinning Tree of Doom, you get explosive Christmas ornaments, which float through the air and drop with explosive bombs. The guests panic, and the Doctor and the others try to usher them into the back room as the Santas come in, but the Doctor runs up to the sound system, hooks a sonic screwdriver to them, and vibrates them to death. or whatever you call androids when they're no longer functioning. Picking up the pieces.
Disassemble. Dead.
Picking up one of the pieces, the doctor's still getting a signal to its source location, and he runs out with the device, and Donna quickly follows. And the two attempt to get the signal, but quickly lose the location. Lance joins them, and the doctor, Donna, and Lance head off to Donna's workplace because the doctor, of course, is suspicious on where all this is happening. They show up at the location and discover that it has a false second basement, or I should say a second basement that's not on the maps. The doctor travels down to that location, and after a brief ride on a Segway, discovers a secret lab by Torchwood where they are manufacturing Huon particles. They are making liquid Huon, something the doctor hasn't seen before. And as they're realizing this, they hear the voice of the person behind this all, who turns out to be Lolth, Queen of the Drow. I mean, the Empress of the Rachnos, and any such resemblance to Lolth, Queen of the Drow, is hereby coincidental.
Totally.
She refers to Donna as her precious bride, and I believe also as the key, which makes the doctor very suspicious. They try to question where the doctor's from, and he mentions he's just homeless. And Donna attempts to talk the person distracting while Lance sneaks up with an axe. But this turns out to be a ruse, as Lance drops the axe in half attack and starts laughing, revealing that he's actually been part of this the whole time. And the reason that Donna's full of Huon particles is that Lance has been poisoning her this entire time. Suddenly, the Rachnos calls in the robot Santas to finish the doctor off, but the doctor, ever having a plan, reverses the connection of the Huon and summons the TARDIS to their location. The doctor then quickly takes off to the beginning of time to wonder what's so important that the Rachnos has drilled a hole to the center of the Earth, as we had seen previously. It turns out that when the Earth was formed, it was actually formed by a Rachnos ship, which is sitting at the core of the Earth. It's amazing that they managed to drill there and not manage to spill out gases that would have caused zombie creatures, as in the episode Inferno, but I'll digress. Pretty soon, the TARDIS is recalled back there for the final confrontation with Lolth, and the Doctor, thinking quick, manages to redirect the TARDIS a few hundred meters in one direction. He's investigating the area, and Donna's kidnapped. The Doctor thinks quickly and goes on to open a door. Meanwhile, back at the hole, Lolth is goading Lance and Donna. With Donna's disappearance, Lance has also been prepped to be the key, and they both get their Huon energy released into the drill hole below, which begins to glow as the Rachnos below begins to power up. As Lolth is gloating, she talks to one of the robot androids who shows to be the doctor. Meanwhile, Lance is dropped down the pit to be used as food for the feeding children. The doctor gives Lolth one chance to surrender and find a place for the Rachnos to live in peace. She refuses, and the doctor then proceeds to blow up a good chunk of the underground facility, which is sitting below the Thames. And water shoots in and starts flooding the pit. And after a little bit of watching the doctor do this with his cold 1,000-yard stare, Donna manages to snap the doctor out of it, and they flee, leaving Lolth, Queen of the Rachnos, to beam back to her giant ship in space and begin an assault on the human race. However, she's now out of Huon, and the human race's tanks quickly make short work of her under the orders of Mr. Saxon. Donna and the doctor hit the top and realize that they've essentially drained the Thames. And after a bit, he gets her back to her family for Christmas dinner. The doctor offers Donna to travel with him. She declines. Donna offers the doctor to stay for Christmas dinner, and he declines. She insists, and he fake acquiesces, and quickly skirts off in the TARDIS. Beforehand, Donna asks if she'll ever see the doctor again, and he replies only if he's lucky. And oh yeah, he also makes it snow.
Because whenever you kill aliens, that happens.
Whenever there's a Christmas special, it has to snow somehow. Either ash from the destroyed ship, or
I've long heard it said the only time that it snows in London is when RTD films a Christmas special.
I think it's happened during Moffat era a couple of times too.
Were any of them on? Victorian London.
Victorian London in particular, yes.
All right, so
Jeez, go for a drink. I'm drowning.
Apparently.
Every time I try to take a nice gentle sip, it's all of a sudden hacking a lung again.
Yeah, I heard that all during my review.
That's what happens when you're drinking Huon particles.
Yeah, there you go, Matt. You're.
It's a Tahitian treat. People, avoid the Tahitian treat.
I have to wonder. So
the
the Empress of Arachnos' plan was plant her ship at the base of a planet, wait for Torchwood to develop on that planet, wait for them to abandon their labs, take over, and then start manufacturing particles with that lab. I feel like this
Part
was a convoluted
6, add
plan.
profit.
Partially, I think the plan was wait till Earth hits a technology level, which should be long enough that the people that would be looking for them, i.e. the Time Lords and the apparently the early Empire races, would stop looking for them. And then take over a facility and use it to manufacture the particles needed and drill a hole to the center of the Earth. The fact that Torchwood had its little incident just left the area open to just left an easy in. After all, I mean, how many companies in Doctor Who had been taken over by aliens or superintelligences at various points throughout the series? Yeah.
At least a good couple of handfuls, that's for darn sure.
Let's see.
Why wasn't she involved when they were drilling to the center of the Earth in Inferno? I feel like she should have gotten in on that action.
Probably because they were drilling in the wrong place.
They had no Huon particles.
They had no Huon particles and they were in the wrong place, and probably not a good technical level. And also the Time Lords are still around, so they could have been still looking for her.
True, although it's noticed that the fact that the Doctor refers to it as the early empires, not specifically the Time Lords.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they did save it for a big reveal that she feels that the Gallifreyans are largely responsible for the destruction of her people, but I imagine there were other races involved as well.
Yeah, I could imagine Rassilon getting together a coalition to take down the Rachnos and the Great Vampires.
Right.
Let's get the great giant epic rolled up newspaper and start swatting.
Because they're both mentioned as being from the Dark Times, so they'd be contemporaries of each other, in fact.
And the Angels, I believe, as well.
Yeah. Though I suspect if you look at the problem with the Angels is, of course, the fact that their origins and interpretation changes over the course of the episodes they're in. But if you go by their original, you could imagine that they were mercenaries in whatever was going on. Because they were listed as assassins originally. Does that mean they have a creed? Anyway.
ADHD, saying it again.
No, that was just me going for a joke. Reaching. And reaching. Am I bothered? Does this face look bothered to you?
I don't know. You don't have a webcam on.
Which is a good thing right now.
I don't know. Their tent looks bothered.
It's bothered.
Yep.
Bovered.
She spelled it in the cheerleading episode.
Been watching
I can't tell, British.
Been watching your
Yes, I've-
Catherine.
Yes, I've spent a good chunk of my time off over the past few days making sure that I was brushing up on my Catherine Tate.
I can't really tell because, certain British accents kind of just sound like that.
I had to spell it for my biography, for the biography for it. So I'm like, oh, hey, it's double V. Now I know. And knowing is half the battle.
Lauren Cooper doesn't have red and blue lasers.
No. But technically Doctor Who does.
And green ones. Where did the green come in?
Speaking of red and blue lasers, you know what I actually watched for the first time recently, and I'm not going to go too far off topic, but Galaxy Quest.
Awesome movie.
I hear it's hilarious.
You've never seen it, Matt?
No.
God, I'm going to have to Clockwork Orange you on that. It's great, especially if you know Star Trek fandom, which it's essentially making fun of.
Yes. I kind of, if I ever interview the Star Trek OS cast, I kind of want to ask them how they feel about Galaxy Quest.
I think they'd think it's okay because they tend to have good humor among them now, as they tend to even spoof themselves.
Yes, as Family Guy and a number of other shows have shown us.
I'm pretty sure if you asked George Takei about it, his response would be, "Oh my." Anyway, getting back on topic. Generally, when we review things now, we do this in the good, the bad, good scene, bad scene. So why don't we go ahead and start with that? What did you like about this episode? And I'm going to start with Matt.
So a thing that we liked about the episode, or just a scene that we liked about the episode?
A scene will come later. This is in general.
Because you mentioned scene only so far, but okay.
No, I said the good, the bad, good scene, bad scene. So that's 4 things. So,
so good thing about the episode.
What did you think worked with this episode?
I'm trying to think. There's actually a lot of decent things.
If you want a moment to think, I can go with what Tim mentioned.
Yeah, but by all means, go ahead. I have to pick and choose.
Tim says he hadn't seen this episode in quite a while, and it was much better than he remembered. He loved the music, and it also did a remarkable job of presenting Donna as an annoying character without actually making her annoying to the audience.
I would say it didn't go far enough in that aspect, but they did revise it by Series 4.
Yeah.
And
he also mentions the... Go ahead. He also mentions the mystery of how Donna got into the TARDIS in the first place was also set up and solved well. The explanation was just technobabbly enough.
I'll agree with that. And, unlike Moffat would have been like, it happened.
You'd just hand wave and it just happened. Fuck you, Moffat.
Yep.
Make a plan.
Yeah.
It would have been a season arc as to how it happened.
Yes.
Palm.
And then he wouldn't really explain it at the end anyway.
Exactly.
Wizard did it.
I was Merlin once,
I'm still waiting for them to address that. I want that to be addressed.
I think
so
a
bad.
novel addressed that.
I am not counting the novels. I want to see Capaldi dressed up as Merlin.
I want Capaldi dressed up as Gandalf.
Can Merlin be Scottish?
Yes, actually.
Yes, he actually could, yes.
Are you English, sir? No, I'm Scottish.
No, I'm
Look at the
Celtic,
eyebrows.
you twit.
So you ain't English then?
Oh, God, Bill.
Don't worry, I wasn't planning to do the whole sketch.
I'd actually love to see that sketch readdressed between between Catherine Tate and Capaldi.
I
That
feel
would
like
be
I feel like he
interesting.
would do something other than turn her into an action figure of Rose.
Something possibly involving his fists.
Yes.
You've noticed that over Series 8, Capaldi has threatened to punch people out.
He's trying to hit people with his shoe.
Yes, he also threatened to slug somebody. I was like, wow, this is the doctor that when somebody slugged somebody 2 forms ago was, oh, I can't approve of that. That was in the next Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
And now he's like, give me a crack at this.
He's getting physical again. Maybe we'll get another martial artist one. I mean, we haven't had one since Pertwee.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to have another James
Break out the
Bondish.
Venusian Aikido.
Yeah. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we've had sword fighting, but that was the closest we've gotten since then.
Pretty much. And we've had sword fighting a couple times actually. Anyway, we're still waiting on me for the good thing.
Yeah.
Yes, we are giving you time.
Um, again, trying to focus. You know what?
Apparently, the
Just
time
just
was not. Oh.
as an overall thing, compared to a lot of the Christmas specials that we are going to cover, I assume, the story here was actually pretty decent. The story was actually pretty good for a Christmas special because, again, we're going to be going into some Moffat ones and they get kind of.
All right.
So overall, the story is probably one of the better Christmas events, Christmas special stories that we've had so far.
All right. Bill?
Let's see. And this I've been trying to figure. I mean, I've gotten scenes on my mind. I am. Well,
Scenes are later.
I know, and that's the thing. I've been having a little more difficulty finding overall things that stand out to me. I do like how the Doctor and Donna each have an arc in this episode. They each go, they each are in a different place psychologically at the end of the episode than they were at the beginning. And not just because of the fiance dying. I mean, obviously she's not getting married anymore, but other than that, they're each in a mentally different place. And I do like that. Uh, Not counting particular scenes, I would probably say that would be my top thing about the episode.
All right. Mine is the way that Tennant and Tate as the Doctor and Donna tend to feed off each other in
Not
very
not
nice
only as the Doctor and Donna, because as the English teacher and Lauren, they feed off each other quite nicely as well.
Yes, there's a very good chemistry between the two as acting chemistry. And of course, this was probably what prompted Davies to bring Donna back for Series 4, is the fact that Tennant and Noble played better, even better, in my opinion, than the Doctor and Martha did.
Yeah,
Actually,
the
in my
Doctor and
opinion, even better
Donna.
than Tennant and Piper did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Doctor
They
and
just
Martha were kind of awkward a little bit, to be
it's
honest.
kind of like Troughton and Hines, only different, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But it's that same level of being able to know what the other one's going to do and feed off of it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can start to see that it really becomes apparent when they mellow Donna's character a little bit and give her a more out for a more thinking out the box persona during Series 4. I
Yeah.
still really wish that they could have kept Donna for another series or so.
At least
Of
another
course, that
series.
I would have loved to have seen Donna continue on to a Tennant Series 5 because, yeah, those two
Yeah,
really.
I feel like Donna and 11 would. I feel like Donna would be hitting him with over the head with something.
Yes, yes,
She
but
would have
I
learned
would have
katana space at that point.
I would have loved to seen more series with those together. But the way RTD wrote, it was he kind of wrote the companion out at the end of every series, which kind of made it depressing for the Tennant era.
Yeah. Well, after the first season, yeah, he wrote out the
Yeah. No,
names
except for
every
the time
time.
that he wrote the Doctor out.
Yes, and I think it's because of his Whedon his Whedon fanning. Always somebody has to make the ultimate sacrifice. He's Whedoning a little too much more. He's Whedoning more than Whedon did.
Yeah.
So it kind of made
by 2005, Whedon was killing off two main characters in one movie. So
yes, but that's a movie.
That's a movie, not a TV series.
If you look back at Buffy and Angel, not every season ended.
They got rid of Harriet Jones and Donna Noble in the same movie, and quote unquote, too. So,
and said final goodbyes to Rose again.
Yeah.
And Jackie.
The Tyler family again.
Yeah. And I think Mickey elected to separate from them and stay on Earth at that point too, didn't he?
Yes, which is why him and Martha are apparently a thing.
That's the original Torchwood Series 3 plans. So I'm not going to argue that one with Russell T Davies. I know a lot of fans do, but if it would have been a little better written had they been able to do the Torchwood Series 3 they planned, had Freema Agyeman not decided to go and do Law and Order UK.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget what Noel Clark was doing at that particular time too.
So everyone was busy.
Yeah,
it was part of a terrorist plot to bomb a Federation something.
Not for another year or two.
Yeah.
They were still writing that at the time.
Anyway.
Tangented so that was mine. What didn't you like about this episode? Matt, you go first.
Starting back at me, huh?
Yep.
I think they were still filling out the Donna Noble character. They didn't quite know how to get her at the right level. Which, to be honest, also does help when she comes back.
Yep.
Because by then she has adjusted.
So you're not as fond of Donna's characterization.
In this particular episode, no. But again, when they bring her back, she is getting better already.
The part of Catherine Tate's comedy shtick is she tends to play very abrasive characters.
Yep.
Lauren is a juvenile delinquent whose specialty is being obnoxious. Nan is an mean old bat. So that's kind of the character she was known to play, and basically what Russell wanted at that time was one of these characters that they could slightly mellow over the course of the episode. They just didn't do it enough.
For the first part, yes.
Yep. Another example of a one-off Catherine Tate character, just to show that the others are not whatever. That's just to show that the others are in playing with what she generally does. I once came across a clip of her where she was claiming to be a translator, and the way she translated would do things like, when faced with a Swedish person, she would say, "Gertie, Gertie, 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 Gertie." That would be how she translated.
She's kind of like a milder version of Sacha Baron Cohen. If you know who Sacha Baron Cohen is.
Borat, right?
Yes.
Oh, him, okay.
Borat, the Ali G Show, The Dictator, and a few other bits. But the Ali G Show, he basically does that whole thing where he's kind of an on-the-street interviewer, and basically by using this character that he's made, basically makes them look like fools. And that's kind of what Donna did, only not as over the top as Sacha Baron Cohen. That was kind of the characters that she did. So, Bill, what didn't you like?
That's another one. It's moments more than the actual. And initially, when I watched this, I could not just Donna just annoyed the hell out of me, but I don't know if it's knowing how she ends up or just getting more used to her as an actor and a character, but Donna didn't really bother me upon my second and third watching of this episode. I'd say the main thing that bothers me is the Arachnos' plan, which just seems ridiculous. Like the manufacturing of a particle that hasn't existed for billions of years out of the most common element in the universe using human technology. Granted, human amplified with alien technology, but still human technology. It just the whole thing makes it a little hard to a little harder to believe than normal.
Well, yeah, the Huon energy is essentially, to use the trope name for it, applied phleptonium.
Yeah,
It's the magic item. It's their equivalent of Star Trek's dilithium.
it's MacGuffin juice.
Yes.
Um,
So, technically, they're MacGyvering up MacGuffin juice.
yes, I mean just I don't know. I feel like there could have been more technobabble involved in how they made it. Like even if they said, "Oh, she brought something from her ship," that would be better.
Yeah, and over the course, they get better at doing technobabble. I noticed, like, fourth season Tenet had quite a bit of technobabble that worked pretty well.
Yeah.
Um,
Anything else that particularly bothered me here? I don't really think so. I mean, as I said, if you took my first time watching it, Donna, but by the second and third time, she didn't even really bother me, so I can't even really say that. I'm going to go into what Tim mentions here, which is he thinks the family having the reception without the bride was a bit much. Uh, okay, and the worst scene is later on.
mhm. Yeah, I have a two that I didn't like about this. One of which is the whole concept of the Arachnos being the center of the Earth. Aren't we 90% sure that the center of the Earth is molten?
Fairly sure that at least some
I
portion
can
of it
forgive
is,
that
yes.
depending on how deep the core is. I mean, if the core is miles deep and there's, a kilometer or, a half a kilometer starship in it, then it would be, okay. If it's, that high tech, fine.
And then, and this is also related, is the resolution of it, of pouring a river's worth of water down the tube.
See,
Didn't
and that, I hadn't realized until your summary that it was actually below the Thames. Every time I watch it, I spend the time wondering if whether it's Huon particles or water or something else pouring into the hole.
No, if you remember when they came out, they drained the Thames. So basically,
Gotcha.
the whole resolution was to pour water down the hole.
Which, with spiders, is
So they
kind of
flushed
apt,
the spider
actually.
down the toilet.
Sort of, but at the same time, it seemed to be you think about how far you would have to drill to make a hole down to the center of the Earth,
I've
and they
trapped you,
specify
Spider-Man.
what?
I've trapped you, Spider-Man. I've trapped you in this ginormous path.
And how much water it would take to fill a hole that looked to be about 10 feet in diameter.
Again,
10
alien
feet in
technology.
diameter to the core of the. Actually, yeah, pouring that much water to the core of the Earth would probably cause some problems.
Yeah, it seemed to be as it was another Russell T Davies. I had all this stuff up to the ending. I can't think of the ending. I'll ad hoc something.
What's the best way to get rid of spiders? Throwing water at them.
Because he has this problem where he kind of the Christmas Invasion, at least the resolution of it was fairly well thought out. In this one, he kind of ad hocs it, and it feels a little ad hoc. It's like a lesser version of Rose absorbing the TARDIS to become the Deus Ex Machina at the end of Parting of the Ways. It's like, here, we'll hand wave a fix. is something with Moffat or not with Russell T Davies' writing style that tends to bother me. Um, and I'm not saying that I like RTD better as a oh hi Bucky as a arc writer. I like his arcs better than I like Moffat's arcs.
Because his arcs actually explain themselves for one thing.
Mostly, yeah. Whereas Moffat, as a single episode writer, I like him better when he's not writing for the arc, when he's writing standalone episodes and he's not writing a lot of them. His stuff during RTD eras was freaking awesome, and most of his stuff during the modern era sucks, with 2 or 3 glowing exceptions, where it's obvious that he put the time and concentration into getting it right. So, individual scenes. What was your favorite scene of the episode? Matt.
There's a couple of them I really do like. I think the first one I'll throw out there, just so I can claim Bagsy's, the TARDIS chasing.
Okay. I'm actually not as fond of that, but
That
I'm
that was actually one of Tim had a tie for 2. That was one of Tim's favorites, and that was actually one of the ones I was going to mention, largely because of the steering the Doctor must have done in that.
the thing I really like about that is the reaction of the kids in the car to this going on.
Oh yeah.
Well, I like the fact that this is the first time, and it's about darn time that they did too, that they actually have the TARDIS fly.
I think it's
it's a long sequence
flown,
of it
the
flying.
first time it's flown in atmosphere, I think.
Yeah, it's the first time it's actually had a sequence this long that they actually did it with.
Yeah, there was a short scene, if you remember, at the beginning of the Christmas Invasion, where it flies in and crashes off a couple of stuff.
That's just
crashing and flying
not
are not the
flying.
same thing.
Still, at the same time, the TARDIS
materializing in the wrong place and failing to fix it.
At the same time, the TARDIS was never meant to do this.
No, and it's pretty clear in this episode. The TARDIS was never meant to fly through atmosphere, and he's working his ass off not to destroy all the cars in his path, and he does a good job.
Technically, the TARDIS is not meant to fly through anything but vortex. It's shown it spinning through space.
Flying through space and flying through vortex are very similar things. Flying through atmosphere is a whole different ballpark.
It's supposed to move universally, not locally. At least not like this.
Usually when it's flying through space, you could also kind of claim that it's using whatever force that's around it just to kind of float where it is at the time being. It's not like they usually have it there for a very long period of time, with a few exceptions.
All right. So you said there was another scene you liked?
Bill?
Me? Yeah.
Well, actually, I thought Matt had one.
Oh, no.
You said you had 2.
Did he?
Well, I mentioned that I had a couple, but this was going to be the one I was going to throw out there.
Okay.
I feel like the other one, most of us likely going to be the same, too. Because, Tim mentions this scene as being when the Doctor says the line, but its name lives on Gallifrey. And whereas for me, it's kind of that largely the scene after it. I think this is the first real Fury of the Time Lord scene we really get. I mean, there's a little bit. I'm trying to remember if there's anything like that in School Reunion other than that one conversation they have.
Yeah,
but even then, that's more you're different than the Time Lords. Whereas this is kind of like some of the scenes that would come in later episodes. Whereas and here is the Time Lord Unleashed. Here's what Gallifrey has done, and I'm the heir of that. Kind of leading into what would eventually become the Time Lord Victorious arc.
Yes, and which we would come back to later in Waters of Mars. We see a bit of it in Human Nature.
Yes.
Family of Blood.
The scene here is kind of a prelude to the scene in Family of Blood, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. And I think we see a bit of it in Journey's End, too. Just a touch. But it really comes to its conclusion in Waters of Mars.
Right.
Okay. My favorite scene. I actually think I have to go for the if you're fighting a man with a sonic screwdriver, don't let him near the sound system.
Yeah. Fair.
Because it's another one of those little moments of awesome.
Yeah.
Because let's face facts, a
And,
sound system is an amplifier for something
The
sonic.
Doctor used confusion. The Doctor used supersonic. Santa Robot hurt itself in its confusion.
it was super effective.
Santa Robot has fainted.
Yeah, but it was one of those things where, there was no other purpose to the sonic screwdriver but to be sonic. He just happened to put it up to a huge amplifier. It wasn't a Deus Ex Machina. You could have done that with the classic sonic screwdriver, and I think it would have performed the same effect.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that was actually where I felt it was less effective than it could have been because normally he would use it to like beam a virus written by the TARDIS into the robot, whereas here he's like, nope, let's use sonic sounds, and I'm surprised none of the humans' ears were bleeding.
Yeah, they were covering their ears and were in pain. I think it was just they didn't want to show blood.
Yeah, I could see that.
But it felt like for one, they didn't overuse the screwdriver. It was used as its most basic of functions, and I kind of appreciated that.
Right.
Okay, so what made you groan? What made you put this episode on the naughty list, Matt?
I'm trying to think of a key one. I'm sure there's a couple of them.
I'll go with Tim's then while you're thinking.
Okay.
Tim says he thought the worst scene was the one where the family is half-heartedly trying to figure out what happened to Donna.
That was kind of bad. Um. Hmm. Trying to think. I I think actually, maybe the heel turn moment with the husband was my oh come on moment. I think my
With
first
Lance?
reaction to that was, oh, I saw it coming a mile away.
Mm.
Was my original reaction to it seeing this for the first time. Was, ah, oh, should have known. So obvious. Boo.
All right.
And it's another
Bill?
moron that got tricked into doing something because they thought they would get some reward out of it. Nope.
Bill?
With me, I would say any scene where Donna is too stupid to live. Because there's at least a couple of them in here where she's just too stupid to be alive.
Yeah.
And I think they fixed that aspect of her by the time Series 4 came around.
They did, and it was one of the reasons that what happened to Donna at the end of Series 4 was such a crying shame because this is what she came back to. She had all of her memory wiped prior to her first appearance at the Doctor. So she turned back into this. And you see that a little bit of in End of Time where she's guffawing and snorting at a rather inappropriate card with her mother. And it's like, wow. Yeah, bring me back the actual Donna.
Kind of makes you cringe, don't it?
Yeah. It's one of the reasons I've always felt that what happened to Donna Noble was actually a fate worse than death.
Not to mention fairly bullshit.
No, I don't find it bullshit. I understand why it happened. It makes sense to me. I just don't like it.
I think they could have avoided it completely, to be honest.
How?
By not having it happen. The end.
Well,
I don't understand why she needed to have that happen to her. Why she even needed all of that knowledge in her head to begin with. But again, this is going into a totally different episode.
So basically, Ron is looking at it within the story. You're looking at it as the writer,
Yes.
which which are both the two sides. I would kind of agree with both of you there.
What annoys me about the whole thing is they make a big deal about the whole meta crisis thing being an issue, and then, one season later we get River Song.
Which also breaks the rule that was already made, yes.
Kick my foot in the dick. All right. So I think that was both of yours on what you didn't like.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, mine was nearly any scene involving Loaf, the Spider Queen of the Drow. And it really wasn't so much the character, it was the scenery chewing of the actress doing it.
Fair.
And to an extent, what?
I said
Yeah,
that's fair.
And to the scene, the writing of that.
And
I think
the fact that
worst.
she. Oh, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
Go ahead, Bill. Go ahead.
I was going to say the fact that she seems to find what's his name's jokes hilarious, no matter how corny they are. Just
She pops out. She pops out human culture references, if not pop culture references, like nobody's business. And she just has this whole sneering attitude that doesn't quite match the character. I mean, this is supposed to be the Empress of the Rachnos. I would have expected a touch of royalty, and I would have expected such a touch of somebody very, very, very old. It is implied that she's billions of years old.
Older than the Earth?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Or should I say old enough to lay eggs before the Earth was created?
And what we get is, instead of that, we get something that's closer to Alucard from Helsing Abridged than we get from something you'd expect of this old, ancient evil.
Yeah, sort of.
And that kind of hits me as wrong for a drama that's not supposed to be parody. I think one of the worst offenders is the whole thing where she has them suspended above the pit and she's getting them to make them say "I do," and her response is "I don't," and then starts snickering about it. I'm like, that's not even funny. I'm like, just kill this. Then they never really give her a name other than Empress of the Rachnos.
Yeah.
Which is why I refer to her.
For some reason, I can never remember Rachnos. Like, I always have to search Empress or Runaway Bride to remember the name Rachnos.
I can, because it's
just fine.
Because it's just arachnid with the Aegon and the end changed to Nos. Yeah. It was Russell T Davies writing a play on the term arachnid.
If they're going to be a play on the term arachnid, then they should be something like the reason arachnids started to be born on Earth or something. Arachnos egg without the Huon particles created arachnids or something.
Well, that gets us into Planet of the Spiders territory.
And let's not go back there. It's a silly place.
We've already reviewed that. But no, this was the first thing I when I saw the character for the first time, I went, wow, they've made a Drider. It's Lolth. I mean, the first thing out of my mouth I think I saw was, it's Lolth. The bad guy's Lolth. And then we hear this, this stuff, and we start listening to this character, and I'll just kill this bitch already. Because, it completely lost the feel. And she's constantly hamming it for the camera to the point that she's crying over what's happening at that famous end scene. And she almost breaks the suspension of disbelief in that particular scene because of the over-the-top howling she's doing. It just goes on too long.
A little bit, yeah.
It's reminiscent of my web.
Kind of, yeah.
So I don't know. She just massively turns me off from the episode in many scenes. Her
Well, I would
whole
hope she's a
person,
turnoff.
her personality is. It's not a character I love to hate. It's a character I just hate. You know, Ainley Master I love to hate because even if he is over the top hammy, he's still, he
He's
has
still a viable threat.
he's still fun to watch.
Yes, and while he is hammy, he is a serious hammy.
And for the most part, almost any incarnation of the Master is fun to watch, even John Sims. Missy in particular has been a joy in Series 8.
Mm-hmm.
But this character, you're not really fun to watch it.
Yeah.
I guess the character just seemed a bit too human, if that makes sense.
She seemed like she was, oh, it's a Christmas special, we need to tone down the villain and make her the comic relief.
Yeah,
Which
and
is not
I didn't
how
like
you deal
that.
with a villain.
The villain is the villain. It should always be the
Yeah.
villain. Moffat seemed to have gotten that better. The Great Intelligence wasn't toned down. And in fact, I still applaud Moffat for bringing back the Great Intelligence and applaud him even more for making Ian McKellen his voice in that initial episode. I still mention that to this day.
No, if only they would make Ian McKellen the actual physical representation of the Great Intelligence, that would be a step beyond awesome.
Well, they've replaced him with Richard E. Grant, which I will acknowledge is a decent replacement. I have
Feel like Richard E. Grant is probably much, much cheaper than Ian McKellen.
And I have buco respect for Richard E. Grant. The man's played the Doctor twice. Come on.
Yeah, I've seen both of those.
I'm still waiting for Jim
outside of
Broadbent.
those little roles that he's done. I don't really know him outside of anything else.
I've seen him in a few other things. He's
which is why he's cheaper than Magneto Dolph.
Magneto Dolph.
Yes.
Gan Lenz here.
I was in a movie, you know.
Mirth Nito. Yes. Anyway. Yeah, they've gotten better at that, but at this point it was a bit of a detraction. Especially with how bad I thought the resolution was in this. And I don't know if it was the prosthetics or what, but her speaking with that particular, if she was trying to sound spidery or what.
Well, she did have fake teeth glued into her mouth, so...
Yeah, I think that was the reason.
That might have not helped much, yeah.
Yeah, they probably should have had her dub over that or something then.
Yeah, I would have. I would have had her dub over it and probably had her speaking in received in RP rather than accented to make her sound like an empress.
Right. And there's also just the fact that
made her use the royal
in a British production, somebody who's not, familiar with any human regions would speak RP.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, like, any other accent is basically saying they're from this, an equivalent to this human, to a human place, if not a specific one.
Unless you're the Doctor, in which case your accent changes whenever you regenerate.
Yeah,
and that's fine, because he's been all over England. He's wandered up and down England.
He was 953 years old the first time he had an accent that wasn't received pronunciation.
500.
Elwood keeps flip-flopping.
Pertwee had a bit of a regional dialect accent.
Okay, generally it's described that McCoy is the first non-received pronunciation.
Well,
doctor,
if you watch a few more John Pertwee eps.
I can see why you would say that. I can see why you would say that.
He tries to speak in RP, but his accent is a bit thick to cut.
Like he can't. Yeah, he's described as someone that speaks RP, but I can see why you say that it's not necessarily.
He tries to, but yeah.
There's a little bit to it, but anyway.
That's fine, Matt. I'm just killing time until 1:45. But now that we've said this, I guess we can go on to our final thoughts. There's only three of us. We'll actually probably end this podcast a little early tonight.
Yeah, I'm like, unless we have anything. Well, actually, yeah, that's part of what final thoughts are, is anything we haven't gone over. So,
Okay, one more thing.
okay.
The Segway. You realize
I
it
was
had
tempted to mention the Segway too.
It was 6 years since the Segway had come out. And yet they seem to add, for no other reason, a scene of them going down this thing on a Segway. I was trying to figure out.
Well, they needed a segue to get from one scene to another.
Wah, wah, wah.
I was trying to figure it out, and I realized something. Do you realize that Segways are more or less outlawed in the UK?
Really?
On any public access way, you could only use a Segway on private property.
Weird.
It is largely they're considered a safety risk. They can't be insured. They are considered a motor vehicle by Britain's laws.
So it was probably just the cast and crew wanting to have something to have some fun on, and then they just went, "Let's shoot a scene with it."
Yeah, it just seemed to me as kind of a pointless throwout. They couldn't just have them walk down the corridor like you would in every other Doctor Who episode and cut to the end of the corridor. No, they had to go.
No, I think RTD was writing a pun into the plot.
In which case, I still smack him for a very bad long reach for a joke.
How do I segue from this scene to that one? Oh, I know.
Personally, I just think they had some extra money in the budget and said, "Hey, I've got it. Let's just have us go down the corridor on Segways."
And when the actors are done, everyone else can try them too.
Like I've got to admit, I was a little confused watching it as to why they were just like breaking out in laughter, but.
I think that has to do with the fact that they're able to ride these, and in the UK, Segway is classified as a powered vehicle and subject to road traffic law, with the effect that because the Segway is deemed not to meet the required safety standards, it is unlawful to use the Segway anywhere other than on private property with the owner's permission. There has been several attempts to change this law, but it has failed. And even as late as 2010, 2011, somebody's been prosecuted and fined £75 for riding a Segway in a public place. So it might have just been the irony, or how ridiculous they all looked riding on Segways.
Do they treat the same thing as like mopeds and scooters and shit?
Mopeds and scooters have a separate law. There is a motor. They're considered motorcycles. They're subject to motorcycle laws.
Ah.
I think it's ridiculous. Segways are actually also used in the States, by the way, for handicapped individuals, if you will. I know. Yeah. I actually knew for a long time a local Wisconsin area comedian who lost both his legs to natural diseases, and he rode around on a Segway because it was the only way he could get around anymore.
They're used by police officers in some countries.
Oh, some countries, some cities. They actually have like Segway police, like in the Thanksgiving parades and everything now too, just to keep an eye on things. Just because it's a little bit faster and easier on Segway than it is on foot. They're not that dangerous, unless you're a complete total moron, in which case, yeah, you're getting harmed for the exact reasons you should be getting harmed for.
Yeah, in Lithuania, for instance, they have policemen on Segways in Vilnius.
So, yeah,
and
it's just
there's
real
apparently,
ridiculous.
In the Czech Republic, apparently they have little Segway ambulances.
Jesus.
So that they can, it's not to carry people to and from hospitals, it's to bring EMTs to your location.
Mm-hmm. Still, the whole thing culminates in the fact that the British are a bit silly about these things.
I could see that being useful for like EMTs in New York City.
Yeah, I could see it used for EMTs that it's not, the 911 help I'm dying call. but the ones where it's like we're gonna have to dispatch to check up
What?
and maybe call an
I,
ambulance.
I mean places that are so bad, like places where the traffic is so bad that the ambulance is not getting there within 30 minutes. So they dispatch something that can go between the traffic. That's why nobody in the city delivers using a car because it's impossible to get anywhere with one.
Yeah, there's
So
several cities like that throughout the world.
yeah, that's what I mean. Places
Um,
like that, it would make sense for the EMTs to be on something like that,
all right,
if not
so
motorcycles.
final thoughts, Matt.
Um, Again, the plot, the main story, which is the whole setup with Catherine Tate and trying to find out why she was a part of all this, and generally the fact that we do have a Christmas feel without going over the top with it. This is probably still one of the better Christmas specials in my opinion. And I can't say that I was honestly ever really bored with the story ever either. That I've seen this thing, what, 4 or 5 times now? So overall, I think it's a pretty good episode. Next.
All right, Bill.
I like the fact that the question introduced at the beginning of the episode is answered during the episode, which is something that
Moffat never
Series
does.
8 kind of had a problem with.
What?
Series 8, Series 7, Series 6.
And I don't mean the well, I guess what is the question? All he says what 4 times.
Yes, I noticed that. I'm like, wait a minute, there were 4 whats there, and there was no flat what. I guess they hadn't quite gotten the what
Yeah, that was
pattern
something
down.
that would be perfected the following Christmas. Other than that, yeah, it's generally an enjoyable episode. It probably could have been, done it a little differently if they had known Donna would eventually be a companion. But, as a celebrity guest episode that's not intended to go any farther, it does what it needs to. And it gets the Doctor from the place where he is at the end of Doomsday to the place where he needs to be in the beginning of Smith and Jones mentally. So it works, it does what it's supposed to do, and it doesn't do anything terrible in the process.
All right. I think this is a good episode. Not a great episode, but a good episode. It definitely has its faults. And it's both the writing and the acting are faults in the case of the resolution and Lulf, Queen of the Drow. But at the same time, you also have the really good points of the interaction of the Doctor and Donna. First, their kind of hostility toward each other that kind of mellows over the course of the episode. And, of course, this is also the one and only appearance of Donna's father, as the actor involved would die before the 2008 series.
That's something I can complain about. Wilf does not appear in this episode. I am disappointed.
No, he'll show up next Christmas.
It'll show up next Christmas and all of next season.
Granted, I imagine that's not a complaint that we could have had in 2006.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we've been like, who's Wilf?
Why is Bernard Cribbins not in this episode? Why would Bernard Cribbins be in this episode?
Yeah, well, they hadn't even established that Wilf was an emergency replacement for Donna's father, who, like I said, the actor died between that and the 2008 series. And so Wilf, who gets introduced during the next episode, they're basically like, well, the fans liked him, so why don't we make him her grandfather? And, of course, Cribbins, of course, has a pre-existing history with Doctor Who, being in the old Cushing second movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So, overall, they kind of touched him in, which is why if they ever made the George Lucas director's cut version of this episode, they'd probably digitally include Wilf somewhere in the wedding scenes.
Yes.
Or maybe a newspaper stand.
He would be the one. Oh, don't worry about it. Donna's fine. Somewhere in the scene.
Yep. But no, it has its flaws, but it also has its good. It has its good connections, and it has its good scenes as well. So I would say it's not a great episode, but it's better than a fair episode. But it's a good episode. So, your ratings. We at this point should mention that our absentee members have both rated these episodes already.
Yep.
And Tim, the first to rate it, gave the episode a 5.0.
It's a little generous. Just a little.
That is a running thing with Tim, as he tends to be a little generous in his votes.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron, on the other hand, gave the episode a 3.5. So, Matt.
I don't
Now
agree
that we
with
are
either of
listing this-
those. I think the later was a little strict, too. I'm giving this one a flat 4.
A flat 4. A flat what? Got ya. 4.0.
Where's the hell was this?
Bill.
I've
You gotta-
been spending at least the past 3 hours, probably longer, trying to figure out what I want to rate this episode. I'm probably going to go with a 3.5 unless I hear something compelling enough in the next 8 minutes to convince me to make it a 4.
You're going to give it a 3.5.
Just
I
barely
am.
above average. Oof.
All right. Well, I am going to give it a 4 myself, because I think that the chemistry between Tennant and Tate really is the only thing that propels this above a 3.5.
Mm-hmm.
They're very nice to see together, and it's what makes this episode good rather than fair, in my opinion. So that will leave us with an average score of 4. So apparently the 4s have it tonight. May the 4s be with you.
Really? Really?
Somebody's been watching the Star Wars trailer, aka me.
I've only watched it like 3 times.
Have you seen the commercial with the man and the woman giving themselves presents, and it ends up with the woman giving the man the Millennium Falcon?
No, I can't say I have.
I'll have to forward that to you. It was given to me over Facebook.
What I
By
have
my
seen,
mother,
however,
nonetheless.
is the Red Media Productions reaction to the trailer, and
I've seen the two comics that least I could do did about the trailer.
Mm.
Also, I would suggest watching the Colbert Report clip that came out this week.
I've seen that shared around. I just haven't taken the time to listen to it yet.
Yeah, I shared it on my Facebook. Watch it. He throws the hammer down on that one. I'll love him for it. Anyway, that's about it for tonight. So see you all next
week
time.
we will be.
I've got. As always, if you want to listen to more of an Unearthly podcast, you can find our playlists on youtube.com/maninblack-reviews. Listen to our weekly streams at twitch.tv/madmat2185, or follow us on Mixcloud at an Unearthly podcast. You can also follow us on social media at facebook.com/unearthlypodcast or twitter.com/unearthlypod. If you want to help us out, swing on over to patreon.com/unearthlypodcast and throw your pocket change at us for your choice of rewards. And of course, don't forget to join us next week for our next Look at a Christmas special, which would be Voyage of the Damned.
Voyage of the Damned. With David Tennant and Australian pop star. What is her name?
I forget her name. She was popular at the time. I remember.
Yeah,
that.
she was the Australian pop singer that winds up as a. Would we rate her a companion? Well, I don't know.
No,
See her opinion. Our opinion.
Okay.
See
Yeah,
us
we'll talk
next
about it
week
next
for our
week.
opinion on that.
Dr.
We'll
likes
probably
to pop singers, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Alright, good night.
And on that bombshell.